Welcome to the Real Estate Pros Show, where we interview real estate investing professionals from coast to coast, as well as the service providers that serve the real estate investing industry. Our goal is simple: share what's working now to help you improve and scale your business to the next level and meet the pros that can help you get there. Real Estate Pros is powered by Investor Fuel, America's leader in helping real estate investors and professionals build the business you need to live the life you've always dreamed of. Let's start today's show. Property insurance for real estate investors doesn't have to be difficult, but it does need to be there to protect you when you need it. MyInvestorInsurance.com not only provides insurance at 15 to 30% cheaper than traditional agencies, it's built specifically for real estate investors like you. You can set up an account in about 2 minutes, get quotes on properties, turn on and turn off insurance for your fix and flip or rental properties in around 2 minutes without having to talk to anyone directly, all through our portal. There's no better way or faster way to make sure you've got the coverage you need to protect you, and no more lengthy policies either. Once you're set up, you're billed monthly and prorated by the day for however long your policy is active. It's powered by MSI, the third largest independent MGA, with 1.5 million customers and more than $1 billion in cumulative premiums written. Get set up today in about 2 minutes at myinvestorinsurance.com/fuel.
Hey folks, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Dylan Silver, and today on the show I have architect and capital raiser, designer, builder, investor, overall real estate entrepreneur in Seattle, Mark Shuler. Mark, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you. I like to start off at the top by asking guests how they got into the real estate space.
Well, I've been a practicing architect for 40 years and had a lot of developer and investor clients along the way. Just kind of was looking over their shoulder and figured if they could do it, I could do it. And so also I am just to my core an entrepreneur. And finally, everybody in my family's in real estate. I've got 5 family members who are brokers, and my kid brother is the foremost authority on real estate taxation in the country. He's the managing principal of a very large accounting firm based on the East Coast, and they've got satellite offices all over the country. And he's the in-house guy who teaches real estate to all of his direct reports.
So growing up in the real estate game and around real estate, did you know from an early age that this is what you were going to be doing? Were you passionate about it at an early age?
Well, I was passionate about architecture from a very young age. I was one of these savant kids who figured out 1 and 2 point perspective when he was like 6 years old. And, I've been designing and building stuff for as long as I can remember. And got into high school, and I've got this really creative mind and this really analytical mind, and was able to fuse all that into a career path with architecture. That's when I really discovered it. And then, just went to college and went to architecture school, did really well there, and then got out and have been practicing for lots of years. But the real estate thing came along later. I really got the bug in the late 90s, early aughts, and I went back to business school here at the University of Washington and got, certification in commercial real estate development. It took me a minute to get going in it, but by about 2012 or 13, I started really pursuing deals, and specifically apartment deals.
How common is it for architects to be investors themselves? Is that a typical career growth path that you've seen, or is that maybe less common?
I've always wondered about that. I don't think the vast majority of architects get anywhere near it. A lot of architects are want to be artists, and they think about redesigning the landscape and doing whatever they do, but it's not taught as part of architecture curriculum. I can tell you that, and it should be. I mean, you should understand who your clients are going to be throughout your career, and I mean, a lot of what architects do is interface with developers.
Yeah.
And they are not speaking the language. So, I've always thought of architects as highly paid technicians, but they're not on the deal making side. And I was like, I don't want to sit over here. I want to be on this other side of the
On the other
table.
side.
Yeah.
What's the career path typically look like for an architect? And I'm sure it's changing drastically right now, right?
Oh boy. Yeah, it
But
is.
what does a career path look like? And are there, steps along the way where, when people think about their 15, 20-year plan, is this like, hey, this is my trajectory? Is there a typical path for an architect these days?
Stop living on an island and join the #1 mastermind in America for professional real estate investors. Investor Fuel is a community of hundreds of the nation's top investors working together to build stronger businesses and better lives. In addition to the amazing community of real estate investors acting as a board of advisors for one another, Investor Fuel members have access to 100% funding on purchase and repairs for our members only, a health insurance program, and benefits and discounts that more than pays for the membership of most of our members, meaning it's actually costing you money to not be a member of Investor Fuel. If you're looking to scale your business and build a business that allows you to live the life of your dreams, please visit investorfuel.com today and book a call with our team.
Well, that's what's really interesting about architecture. You can do the traditional thing, which kind of is what I did for a lot of years, which is you're just setting up a practice and hanging your shingle out, and you start designing and building structures. I did that, and I think a lot of people do that, but you end up doing the same thing for 40, 50 years.
Yeah.
And I just, after a while, I've done 500 projects. I just like, okay, I've done this. What else can I do? And so I pivoted, and that, and when you pivot in your late 40s, that's a hard pivot. You've got to, you got to learn whole new skill sets and redefine yourself, and that's pretty damn hard when you're kind of an old grumpy guy like me. So but if you stick with it, you can really redefine yourself and become a much broader practitioner and speak the lingo.
Yeah, I
And
mean, I had a similar, at least perspective, because when I'm a wholesaler, that's what I'm passionate about. I enjoy deal making. We may share that similarity between us. But when I was thinking about getting a real estate license a couple months back, I eventually did. I was kind of aware, but I wasn't totally aware of just how little real estate agents know about real estate investing. I
ain't that
mean,
a
very,
bitch?
very little, I would say.
Yeah.
And I am a real estate agent. I'm a realtor now. So I can
Yeah.
say this as being one. There's effectively, at least in Texas, no, I would say zero training on real estate investing. So most real estate agents, not just because they're tired of low offers or from, people trying to haggle over every dollar, which real estate investors certainly will. It's also because they're unfamiliar with like the jargon, how to communicate with these people. And also, I hate to say it, this too, a lot of real estate investors have a big ego. So then you're dealing with, personalities on top of that. But, I noticed the same thing, that you would think that a lot of real estate agents may know about investing, but no, it's a totally different skill set.
Very different. It's one thing to be a hired gun. It's another thing to shoulder risk and personally guarantee a loan, right? And
Absolutely. I want
uh,
to ask you, Mark, about, your experience in raising capital. And before hopping on here, you mentioned private equity, right? And I think I've spoken with a lot of investors, and I've spoken with people who've raised capital from Wall Street and took that skill set into residential real estate or multifamily or commercial real estate, but without having any prior real estate background, just maybe their partner was involved in it. And you've managed to raise capital. How did you learn this capital raising skill set? Did it come naturally to you? Did you have
yeah.
partners along the way with this?
If you're looking for consistent, high-quality leads, look no further than Investor Machine. Investor Machine isn't just another agency, it's the most sophisticated, data-driven lead generation company on the planet for real estate investors. and serves the role of being not just a lead generator for your business, but a marketing partner that is helping you achieve your goals along the way. Go to investormachine.com to learn more and schedule a call with our team today.
And, capital raising is an art and a science. And I've been parts of masterminds. I'm part of one right now. That's all we talk about. And how do you do that effectively? And it's a lot more complicated than taking down a deal and going to all your friends and family and whoever else you can scramble to try to invest in it. That's not the game. I mean, it's you have to have relationships established, and you have to, before that, be credible. And in your first deal, it's like, how do you take down a deal when you don't have the money, and how do you raise the money when you maybe don't have a deal? So it's a chicken and egg thing.
Yeah.
You just grind through, and here I am, 17 syndications later, and I've raised $50 million. So, but it's always a challenge.
I'd like to get a little granular talking about capital raising because, I think most people who are on the outside looking in don't think that this is something that they can do. You mentioned credibility, but I also think that on a smaller scale, a lot of the same principles that apply to raising lots of capital can work on a smaller scale. Even if you're not raising millions of dollars, some of the same mindset and tactics can apply. So without giving away all the gold here, Mark, but what's some of the tactics and processes and maybe situational awareness, strategic relationships, and just general advice that you would give folks if they're trying to start raising capital?
Well, I mean, one thing you mentioned is ego. There's a lot of cowboy attitude in the industry. A lot of, let's say, unfounded optimism. And, I'm a big believer in data-driven metrics. You have to understand not only your marketplace, but understand your deal, having done your due diligence, having done your underwriting. Just be armed with all of these metrics. It's just going to make you look more credible. And too many people are like bloviating out there with aspirational language. It's just air. And, that doesn't get deals done. And you have to seriously view yourself as a steward of your investor capital. And too many people get into real estate for one reason and one reason only, to make money. And, you can make money a lot of different paths. It's probably a lot easier. So the stupidest reason to get into real estate is to make money, in my opinion. You have to want to do this because it is a grind. And you are drinking from a fire hose every day. And you just have to have the DNA in your fiber to want to do this. Otherwise, you're going to burn out. And you're going to lose deals, and you're going to lose all that investor money potentially. And so there's, you've got to understand the deals. You've got to understand the business. Most importantly, you have to understand the regulatory environment. And too many people get into the business without a clue as to the regulatory environment. And that's what makes me really dangerous. Is I understand it very, very well. I've permitted 500 projects. I know how invasive government can become. And so knowing how to navigate all that is, I think, one of the main points of being successful in the business.
Not everyone, certainly not every aspiring real estate investor, but not even every accomplished and seasoned, full cycle real estate investor may have an opportunity to manage, tens of millions of dollars of investor capital. But that is a tricky spot to be in, right? Because you're dealing with lots of pressure. You're also dealing with execution. You're also dealing with teams and people. And then on top of all of that, if there's a situation where you're looking for deals, you've still got to find deals, right? You've got to kind of keep the machine going. And so
in this day and age, we're dealing with black swan events.
If you're a new or newer real estate investor looking to launch or grow your real estate investing business, please check out Investor Fuel Club. It's a coaching community, but unlike anything you've ever seen before. And you can actually partner with members of our mastermind from coast to coast on deals right in your market. There's no better opportunity to build a consistent business than to literally partner with pros to help you avoid costly mistakes, avoid the need for capital to do deals, and help you eliminate your fears as you're starting your business. Learn more about Investor Fuel Club at investorfuel.com/club.
Yeah, we talked about that before hopping on here. What sort of psychological attributes and personality traits do you think make someone equipped to handle investor capital and also all the moving parts that go along with all this pressure? It's not just being able to handle pressure. You have to really have kind of a mind for it. Am I wrong in saying that?
No, you do. You first of all have to be comfortable with the risk, and then also comfortable managing that risk, and then finally you need to be able to look at that landscape and see something coming and then pivot on a dime. Let's just take one thing. Insurance. All right, what's going on right now in government? You just see that. I can tell you what's going to happen in a year and a half. FEMA is getting gutted. And what do you think is going to happen in the insurance industry?
I mean, either state governments are going to have to do more or private insurance is going to go up a lot.
They're all broke. So you just nailed it. We're going to have a massive insurance event very shortly, nationwide, because FEMA is getting gutted. So I know what we're doing. My partners got on a plane and flew to England and met with Lloyd's at London, tried to get an umbrella policy for our entire portfolio, trying to cut our insurance costs and just lock that rate in. And then, we monitor flood maps very carefully where we're at. And in this age of increasing global warming and fires in the West and all these hurricanes coming in out of the Gulf, this is a real challenge. Try getting insurance in Florida right now.
Yeah.
See what it costs you. And everything's become so politicized. The insurance commissioner's office is just like paralyzed. So that's coming. That black swan is coming. And,
now,
we're trying to be out in front of it right now.
You're involved in this at such a high level. It's actually a unique conversation. You mentioned going international to secure a insurance policy. Like who would ever thought something like that would happen? Are you when you're seeing these kind of pressures occurring, are you thinking about like, well, what's the timeline to this happening? And are you thinking of like contingencies, including like we have to go out of the country to look for insurance? Or is it you kind of reacting to once it already affects your business?
By the time you react, you're cooked. You got to be out in front of it. You have to. That's where experience comes in, and look, we lie awake at night worrying about this stuff, and right now it seems to have stabilized a little bit. A year and a half ago, it was terrible. I have friends acquaintances, I should say, bought at the exact wrong time in New Orleans, and they were getting insurance quoted at like $850 a door and went to $2,500 a door.
A door.
And that's for an apartment complex. And they didn't underwrite for that. So, and you can't cut costs fast enough to kind of make up that added expense. There's no way. So you're upside down.
I mean, with some of these things, certainly it does feel like we're experiencing maybe more of them. LA fires and then, insurance costs, and then we had, COVID. How do you, was it even possible to see a situation like a COVID? I don't think it, maybe, I don't know. But how do you pivot when you're in the middle of that, especially when you've got so many doors and now people have like a moratorium on rents and so on and so forth, but investors are still expecting a return? Like what happens? Like what are the conversations between someone like yourself and the investors? Of course they're wanting to see a return, but at the same point in time, you're kind of at the behest of the government.
Yeah, I do a lot of things. First of all, if you underwrote your deal correctly and you created value, I mean, we're deep value add guys, so we're doing a lot of construction, and we're moving the NOI needle way north on these projects, and so we're creating. I mean, and the nature of a big deep value add like that is that it works in up markets, it works in down markets, it works in sideways markets, but it works if you do it correctly. And so we're generating enough income to pay distributions. Now, did we have to cut distributions? Yes. And was there 1 or 2 quarters where we couldn't afford to pay distributions? Yes. But those distributions accrue. And so we'll make people whole, but you have to be able to, kind of pivot very quickly and get out in front of this. And finally, what a lot of deal sponsors don't do is communicate with their investors.
Yeah.
I just have a fanatical need to keep my investors in the loop. And so, and like in the middle of the pandemic, one of our deals we just couldn't pay. And so we had to, I spent 3 weeks writing a letter to all of my investors, just explaining where we were. CDC issued this unconstitutional nationwide eviction, moratorium. And then, and then you got into people not being able to pay their rent, and we can't get them out of the units. And so we're like all of a sudden upside down.
Yeah.
And so you've just got to like grind through. We did not lose any of our deals. We were able to, start up distributions again post pandemic, and lo and behold, we were able to, start evictions again, the eviction process. If you don't think people were gaming the system, yeah, they're not paying their rent, but they're driving in with 70-inch flat screens.
Yeah.
And so we got a lot of non-payers out, and kind of got things on the right track again, and the deals are working fine.
Now, I mean, from a much smaller standpoint, people always say, you make your money on the buy, right? But when
Yeah.
these big events happen, like I said, they seem to be happening more, it does affect even, the psychology of the smaller investor. I can imagine it may affect, you when you're looking at these deals, maybe people are maybe less aggressive than they were beforehand, and they're thinking, well, what if this happens again, or what if some iteration of this happens again? So then
Yeah.
you're having to kind of adjust and realize, well, we have to actually have more buffer in case, what I don't even know what, right? Who knows what could happen? But we have to have this buffer set aside because we can't be in a situation where we're accounting for all of the investor capital right now and then something happens and now we're in the red tremendously.
Yeah. What you're describing is the bid-ask spread. And, that has been far apart for years now, certainly past in the post-pandemic era. That bid-ask spread has been consolidating. At one point, there was like a consistent 20% spread. Now it's down to like 6 or 7%. And even then, we're trimming back our offers even more. As you said, you make your money on the buy. You can't overpay. And with these black swan events and interest rates and the bond market and all this uncertainty coming out of Washington, I mean, you've got to evaluate your deals on a risk reward continuum. And I'm not in the business to like be a nonprofit. So
No.
I have to and I have investors. I got to pay, distributions and returns to. So yeah, I mean, we have to stick to our financial fundamentals and underwrite our deals very carefully and make sure that we do not overpay.
I want to ask you a pivot here, Mark, and talk about two subjects. But first, land. I think I've had a lot of investors, including today, talk about land deals, and as someone who's a wholesaler myself by trade, and then looking at the landscape for fixing and flipping and seeing that the margins are slimmer, new builds seem to be the way to go for smaller investors. And I also think that there's a lot of opportunity potentially for maybe some alternative housing or affordable housing to go up. And land in general, I'm bullish on land in general. I'm curious to
No,
get your take on land in general.
you know, they're not making it anymore. And if you can figure out where the path of progress is and get out in front of it, your greatest profit opportunity in any development deal is in the land. But what you have to do is develop shovel ready land. So you buy the land and then you do all the civil and infrastructure, get that ready, and then sell it to one of the big boys like Toll Brothers or I can't remember all the national home builders, but they're always out there prowling around for shovel ready land. So if you can do that, that is where you're going to make, you know, gobs of money.
I also want to ask you about AI. That's a big topic, right, in real estate, and certainly I can imagine investing, but also in architecture, right? I mean, it's got to be just a massive impact on the field of architecture in general. I can speak actually outside of here. I'm a software engineering student, and AI really kind of took off sometime in the last 18 months. To
Yeah.
where most of what we were doing is now kind of like you don't even need software engineers. So we're all kind of here thinking like, well, what are we actually doing here? Basically anybody can just ask a prompt to write code and it'll write the code. How has this impacted architecture and has it been a huge disruption?
Um, where I've seen it, first of all, I'm not an expert in this. You'd think I would be, but I'm not. I primarily do a lot of urban infill stuff. And, people's notion of AI and architecture and engineering is, you just click a button on your keyboard, and next thing you know, the AI has designed the whole building for you. It doesn't
It's not
happen.
there yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see it happening that way. But where I have seen it become really effective, for instance, one of the areas, anyways, is like plate plans for office layout.
Hmm.
I mean, you can have an AI generate three, four different layouts for a plate plan. That's pretty effective.
Yeah.
And they can do it. It can do it really quickly, and your client can look at it in real time and pick, door A, door B, or door C. Um, that's kind of the low level stuff of what I do. I mean, I used to design plate plans for offices, and it's not that hard. So, but what I do are very complicated. I do a lot of houses, and especially these, where I live, throwing $1 million at a house is nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, to remodel it, those are really complicated remodels. And we are engineering for a 9.0. And so, intuitively understanding how you're in schematics on a structure, what the structural implications of that are at the inception of the project. It's not something that I've seen AI quite master yet.
That's
I'm not,
good.
and also, I mean, it's not like an AI bot can go out and become a licensed architect. So I kind of have job security, given what I do, as long as I want to do that. That said, I use AI all the time. I have a professional subscription to ChatGPT. I use that thing all the time. I've got three things crawling around in the background right now. They're going to be delivered in 4 days.
Hmm.
So it is crazy. I started using ChatGPT at 1.0. It's
Hmm.
up to 4.0 now. The progression
Is
in two
nuts.
years is nuts. It is scary nuts.
I
And
know.
I was reading 2 or 3 weeks ago that there was some group, they were building their own little AI thing, and that AI thing started extorting the engineers. Did you read about that?
I haven't heard of this iRobot
Oh yeah,
scenario, but
no,
that is a
it was
concern.
saying we're gonna, and it's just making this stuff up. I hate the way ChatGPT writes. I just can't stand it. I mean, it's got lots of tells, and so I'm forever telling it don't do that tell. It likes to write and then put a dash, and it's like got an intro and then a conclusion, and it'll put a dash there. It's like, don't use a dash, use a comma, and so, but then, I wrote this thing and then told it to adopt my article. I wrote a 13-page kind of mid-year report and another thing recently, and uploaded both of those. I said analyze it and save that as my voice and tone, and it was scary accurate.
It
Now
was
it
able to
cranks.
replicate you.
Yeah,
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 this stuff is amazing. I've seen so many of
nuts.
this. And it's good to know that it's not going to take over architecture, but I mean, certainly in a lot of other areas, you're seeing it just take over. So we'll see what the next couple of years look like. Mark, we are coming up on time here. If folks wanted to learn more about your business or maybe get in contact with you, what's the best way where they could learn more or reach out to you?
Yeah, I've got a couple of addresses. You can just email me. It's either mark@shulerarchitecture.com, and Shuler is Shuler. There is no C in Shuler. On the real estate side, you can use the other one, but you can also use Investor at SGRE investments, plural.com. I'm in front of this box all day long and generally respond to emails.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on the show here today. Congrats on your success and to your continued success. Thanks for coming on here, Mark.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us for today's Real Estate Pros Show. You can learn more about the amazing benefits of the Investor Fuel Mastermind community, including surrounding yourself with hundreds of other rock stars, 100% financing for your deals, and members-only discounts from vendors you're likely already using that, as a member of Investor Fuel, will save you more than the cost of your membership. Visit investorfuel.com to learn more. If you're interested in joining us as a guest of this show, please visit investorfuel.com/pros to apply. You can also check the show notes for access to free resources, how to get access to world-class lead generation, and much more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next show.